Hi, everyone. This is Zach Sherman, and welcome back to Handling the Heat, the podcast by restaurantequipment.bid, where we dive into the real stories behind the people powering the food service industry. Today, I'm joined by Stefano Marzano, co founder of Mighty Meals, a prepared meal company focused on high quality, nutritionally balanced meals. During our conversation, we get into his early days working in his family's restaurants, the late nights and overnight shifts that went into starting Mighty Meals, and how those early decisions led to building a company that now operates across 27 states 10 years later. We also talk about food quality, menu development at scale, and what it takes to keep a brand evolving in a crowded space. Tune in. Stefano, thank you so much for joining us here on Handling the Heat. Super excited to talk to you about your journey with Mighty Meals.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to be here. Let's get started.
Cool. So, Stefano, the first thing we ask everybody is what's something you've enjoyed recently eating?
Wow. I ate a lot of different types of food, but honestly, I'm Italian. I was first generation. Parents were born and raised. So for some reason, I've been love cooking chicken Parmesan at home. It's simple with like a nice arugula salad with fennel, balsamic vinaigrette. It just hits every time.
It's
Yeah.
good. It's warm. It's warm now that it's getting a little bit colder out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, Stefano, let's talk about that family upbringing and let's go back to your kind of beginnings of your journey with food and working in and around your family restaurant. So can you talk to me about kind of your first experiences working in the family restaurant or getting exposed to food from a cultural perspective for you, which I think is obviously very important to the work that you're doing today?
Yeah, of course. So essentially, I was pretty much born in restaurants. My grandfather was a restaurateur. My dad is a chef and restaurateur. My mom was in the restaurant business for over 20 years. My sister owns restaurants. So it's literally like all I knew. I remember at the age of 12, I would go in on the weekends and just like wipe menus down. And then every holiday was always like spent around the restaurant, or if it was at home, it was always congregated around the kitchen. I mean, that's what brings my family together. I mean, like whenever we do Christmases now, it's like everyone does a dish. My aunt always bakes. Me and my dad always usually do, the mains and center of the plate stuff because we're chefs, I guess. And then there's always the stragglers of the family that kind of just go like buy something, like my brother. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I mean, I remember it really started, I think I was not the best in school. I was a little bit of a troublemaker, and didn't like to listen to rules much. So I got suspended for a week from school, I think just for something silly and stupid. So my parents made me go work at the restaurant for free. Like pretty much that was my punishment. Like, you're going to go work with no pay. Of course, it was hot. And this restaurant at the time was the oldest family restaurant owned in DC. It was called Famous Luigi's. It was opened in 1943. Old school, like checkered tablecloth pizzeria. So of course they put me in the basement shredding cheese, even though you could buy shredded cheese. It's like, we got to do it like the old school way. And like, you got to like shred it yourself. And that was hell. And then the next day they put me on, the salad and pizza, or the salad and sub line. And then I was like, oh, this is fun. Like, I'm very ADD. I love to move around, and I found it easy, right? It came very easy to me, and the thrill of being in that rush of having like 400 covers within 3 hours, right? Because 19th Street lunch rush, it's like go, 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 right? You need to be in and out within, 30, 40 minutes. So that's kind of where it all started. I was like, whoa, this is like, it came very natural to me. So then I jumped co-op junior, senior year, which is interesting because freshman, sophomore year, I wrestled, but I couldn't, like, if I did co-op, I couldn't wrestle, right? Because like wrestling practice was, 2-3 hours, and then it just didn't make sense. So I joined co-op. So I left school early, starting junior year, would go drive into DC, work Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, pretty much the night shift. And then that's like how I made my way on the line, right? I worked every station except the pizza station. Like, I can do a lot in the culinary world. Like, don't ask me to make a pizza. I almost burnt my buddy's restaurant down a few months ago. Like,
That's kind of ironic, no? Starting at shredding cheese and still not being able to conquer the not burning a pizza down.
I love pizza. Pizza's a different type of finesse, right? It's
Totally.
like baking.
Scientific.
Baking science, cooking's more of a philosophy. Like, the rules are meant to be broken. Pizza's just has its own beast. But anyways, I mean, yeah. So honestly, I was self-taught, through my family and experiences, and then I went in stage for a few chefs too. Um, then I went to culinary school for a semester, and I'll never forget my teacher said, "You'll never make any money in this industry." It was just like belittling the industry. And I'm like, I'm about to spend like $100,000 of tuition, and you're saying that. So I just dropped out of that and just like kept working. Yeah. I mean, then my dad and my sister, their business partners, they opened a restaurant together called Stefano Marzano. So I helped them open that. When I mean helped, I literally was just a line cook. I didn't like I didn't do any of the I was 18 or 19 years old. I didn't know anything about that. I really didn't even know how to cook really well back then either. You know what I mean? Like really just didn't have much tenure under my belt. So that's how that started me in the cooking world. And then, the next chapter evolves after that, which we
Yeah.
can get into later.
No, that's interesting. And I think the fact that you were around it, regardless of whether or not you really knew what you were learning when you're in the room with your, family and how they're opening up their restaurants or, your extended family, but getting actually to work and with them from the ground up and, figuring out what worked for you and what didn't, I think is a critical kind of piece of that entry level of these kinds of journeys. Cause I think a lot of people just get swept up in it and, whether or not it was because of, the fact that you were suspended from school or whatever, it's a good start to something
Honestly,
that
it could
flourished
be. And
into.
you know what? Looking back on it, I'm glad I got suspended because
Yeah.
here we are now.
No, I think there's a lot of stories like that. It's like you just fall into something and then all of a sudden you find something that clicks for you, like the salad bar, and then it's, only up from there. Cool. So Stefano,
Yeah.
let's transition now then into Mighty Meals, because I think that's kind of where, from what I understand, your journey transitions from something of, this is something that I can do to something I really want to do and want to grow and pursue as something that is an extension of yourself almost. So can you talk to me about linking up with your business partners and kind of putting the initial ideas together for what ended up becoming Mighty Meals?
Yeah. So at the time, I was 19 and I was really, physical fitness. And I met my co-founder, Alex, 3 years prior through, he was a personal trainer and I went to the gym all the time just to like cut weight for wrestling. And, I was like, I wrestled at like 130 pounds. So I was always like light. And, I always wanted to like get to 140. So I was like, how do I gain weight? Cause I was always like, I guess you could say a shrimp in high school. Like I couldn't put weight on no matter how hard I tried or what I
Even with
ate.
sitting around in all these Italian restaurants, still tough to, having,
Yeah, like,
pizza and whatever
isn't
else
that
around.
crazy?
I
A
would be
lot
in
of
a
it's
different
like triple
position, I
carbs
think.
every meal. But yeah, so then my mom, this is random, like we would just talk at the gym. Then my mom wanted to go to Peru and climb Machu Picchu, which she did, but she's like, I need to get ready for that. So she needed a personal trainer. I was like, oh, I'll connect you with my buddy Alex. So that happened. Then like he came to the restaurant with his girlfriend at the time, which comes to an Italian restaurant for Valentine's Day and orders the burger, which by the way, the burger is great, but it made no like what? But I always give him crap for that. The way it's like people were asking me, "Oh, will you meal prep my food?" Because they saw me posting like my meal preps, and I was like, "No." Like I didn't. I remember, at 19 years old, like you're not thinking. I wasn't thinking in the mindset I am now. Like 12 years later, right? But essentially, like really, the restaurant would close at 10 p.m. We'd get in there at 11 p.m. We would work all the way till 6, 7 in the morning, cooking, packaging, and then go deliver the meals from 7 to like 3 p.m. So literally like, 19 to 22, it was that for like 3, 4 years. So like while all my buddies are away at college and all that on the weekend partying and all that, I was literally working the graveyard shift every weekend. We didn't have we were we were everything. The
Yeah.
dishwashers, the preps, the cooks, the marketing. And not only that, during the week, we would prep in the morning. And then at night, we'd literally be doing like anywhere from like 6 to 15 events a week, literally just popping up tables at Orange Series or F45s or Gold's Gym, literally just sampling out meals and trying to sell a product. It was like bootstrap guerrilla marketing style, just literally just being everywhere and anywhere we could. Um, like if it wasn't for my sister and my dad giving us the opportunity to, use the kitchen on the after hours, I don't think we'd be able to start it with, we had no like capital investment at the time. I guess you could say we'd literally just out of pocket money and savings. And then honestly, the big thing I think that it, helped was, the arrogance of a 19-year-old of not know, the risk. I've always had high risk tolerance, but then the arrogance of like not knowing, like scaling a business, personal guaranteeing, like, you know what I mean? Like where
Yeah.
the mental toughness really starts to kick in, right? Like at that time, it was very physically tough and draining on my body mentally too, I guess you could say, but it was more physical draining. Now it's like, it's a mental game. And, once we were there, we were in my dad's kitchen for about 9 months. We got up to like 900 or 1,000 meals a week. My dad politely was like, "You guys got to get the fuck out." Like, you know, he said it in a nice way, but he was always like, "Come on, guys, you guys, like, it's time." We were taking like fucking, the walk-in was like just overflowing with like our stuff. We were putting stuff in the beer cooler, like the dry. It was just like, what? It was just crazy. Um, so that's like how it started.
Well, it's a far cry from where it is now, but I think, the kind of toughness of both of you to go out there and just get it done by any means necessary with obviously the access that you had to a commercial, kitchen is super critical. But I think for me, what's interesting, Stefano, and I'm curious your thoughts, is there's a difference from I'm a line cook, I'm cooking, I'm prepping my own meals to let me now think about this as something I'm doing for others. Right. And it's a totally different headspace that I think you have to be in, even in those early days where, I mean, you're doing 1,000 meals a week. So it's not small scale by any means, but it's different when you're trying to evolve relative
Yeah,
to
it's not
now.
small, but it's not. It's
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's you in a kitchen versus, the facility that you work, the facilities that you work through now. So I guess my question is, what was that initial switch from, or how did that transition go for you when you go from, hey, I'm just meal prepping with me and my buddies at the gym to, okay, we're out there, we're getting all these people at different fitness classes, we're doing all these interesting guerrilla marketing pop-ups, and now I have to go and create and develop recipes and think more, PL, like what's hitting the bottom line for each of these recipes for the people that you're actually selling to versus, what's just best for you yourself.
Yeah. So, it took about 2 years for that click to happen. And I remember it really well because that summer was a very challenging time. Um, because like the first 2 years, it's literally like I was forgetting what day it was because it was like it's just
You're
go,
running
go,
graveyard
go,
shift
go,
and then
go,
you're
right?
delivering all day.
Yeah, and then like you're running graveyard shift, and then like I was probably averaging like 2 to 5 hours of sleep a night, or I mean, I guess a day, because I would sleep during the day or whenever I would sleep whenever I could. You know what I mean? Like I don't like sleeping anyways. I don't sleep much as is still today. If anything, I still sleep maybe 5, 6 hours a night. But it really hit in 2017. So in 2017, all these events and stuff, we finally got at the time, Territory Foods was like the big player in the DMV area. They were venture backed. They were the big dogs, and they were like, I just kept seeing like they raised Series A, B, boom, and I'm like, shit. They have all like they have all the market share in the DMV. We had an in with Vita Fitness. The RD was a huge fan of us. Just liked our product much better. The macro counts were so much better. The portion sizes, the cost, the service, everything. So she got us a meeting with the CEO. Um, and I remember that like day, I made all the meals, but I didn't let anyone touch the food. I made everything myself. I think I made like 10 meals, but for this meeting, it had to be perfect, right? So we get there, we get to the meeting. The meeting was at 12. It's like 1:48. I'm like, we're waiting. And then like pretty much like his assistant said he was busy, whatever. We're walking down the stairs. He's walking up. I guess he was like playing racquetball. I don't know. But he just looked like he had worked out. I literally just like, it was like it was a 20-second exchange of words. Boom, boom, boom. Hand him a Peruvian chicken, which by the way is still on the menu today. And I'll never take it off. 30 minutes later, we get an email from our, guess you could say, liaison, which was R&D. She pretty much forwarded us an email from him to her saying, this product is night and day difference. Let's make the steps. Let's get, Territory out, bring Mighty Meals in. Their contract ended in September that year, and this was in June, right? So we were about to take on, they gave us the average orders they were getting from territory a week between all 5 of their locations. I believe they have 7 now. And it was a lot. Like it was like a lot. And we're like, okay, we're about to get an influx of orders coming in 3 months. We don't have the capex to build out. We're in 2,100 square feet, which was like already, that's another story, but a shit show. It was just so small. And at the time it was shared. I mean, again, that like I live my life of whatever it takes mentality. Cause at the time I'm like, yeah, well, like, yes, say yes. We'll figure it out later. Again, sometimes you get a little lucky. Ironically, my neighbor in the industrial park was moving or wanted to leave. I was like, cool, I'll pay to move you out or I'll help pay, like the trucking, whatever. It was just a carpentry business. So bunch of racking and stuff like that. Then it's like, well, we don't have any money, so let's take out a loan and max out credit cards, right? Because we need to build a cold room, we need a new refrigerator, and we have to do construction too, right? So like, let me put my hard hat on because I know a lot about construction. No, I don't. So like that summer, I'm like, I broke through a load bearing wall without like pulling any permits. I built the whole thing, not pulling one permit from the county. I didn't even know you need them. I mean, I kind of like once the project started, these small GCs were like, yeah, you need to pull a permit. I was like, nah, we'll be fine. I was like, I got to get this up. I got to get this shit on by like September 23rd. I just remember that date. I was like, so like we got it all on. And I just remember like that summer was so hot. So like the quality, like I was like, we need this cold room. Like it was bad, right? Like cold chain is everything in my world. And there's a whole nother science to that we can get into later. But we did what we did. We got through it. Uh, and it was awesome. I mean, that's really the turning point of like, whoa, we got something.
Yeah.
And then, another time too, it's like people would start to notice when people start noticing the logo is like that's or if you say like Mighty Meals and they're like, oh, I've had them, or oh, my cousin or my friend just had surgery. I just ordered her 2 weeks worth of I love hearing stories like that. That's when I knew like this is starting to become a household name, locally. And I'm like, this is amazing. So then you start doubling down, and it's like, again, I have no shame in saying it. I graduated high school with a 1.5 GPA, didn't go to college, but so I'm like, but I'm very obsessed with learning on things I want to learn. In school, I didn't, nothing really interests me. So I was really starting to get interested in like the business side of things, right? The marketing, the financial, the legal, and then optimizing service, right? Just being customer obsessed of just like, how do I think like a customer of mine? Right. And I used to be very competitor obsessed. And I think a
Interesting.
lot of founders are at the beginning. And then like, you know what? If you just stay in your own lane and become customer obsessed, you're going to make noise and people are going to, it's going to do its thing
It'll
naturally.
resonate with
Right.
the right people.
It took
Totally.
me, right. Yeah. It took me, 3-4 years to learn that. And then, at that point we got into COVID, which whole nother wild one.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I was doing delivery foods in COVID, and I pride myself on going to the, green market and buying my own ingredients and whatever else. But I think what's interesting, Stefano, too, is the conviction that you had for the product being, I mean, first and foremost, even before customers or competitors, it's the product that you were putting forward that you felt so strongly in, from a nutrition standpoint, from a quality standpoint. The fact that, the CEO of your first large customer was turned by the fact that the food was that much different, I think I mean, at the end of the day, everyone hopes that their product is better, but you had tangible evidence to prove that your product was superior to these larger, more, financially backed players in the space. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably the biggest kind of pat on your back. Obviously, people knowing, but like if your food is good, the 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 customer obsessiveness becomes easier. Like it just becomes a little
Yeah.
bit more nuanced from there.
Because
So
usually, like, it's the
yeah,
other
yeah.
way around,
No, totally. And it's like, how do we make
and
people
that's how
like our product?
that's what we did different, right? Like, I was a chef first, and then I guess you could say I became, I became to understand the business side, right? So usually it's like on a lot of my competitors, it's like they have no culinary experience. They're
Like
either
this
like
is an
finance guys,
opportunity.
yeah, or logistics and ops. So it's kind of interesting how I went at it from a completely 180,
Yeah.
and I seems like it's working.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna keep riding
Definitely.
that wave.
No, no, totally. Stefano, I'm really curious about meal development because I think I mean, obviously quality is paramount in, the straight to home food delivery space. But for me personally, and I think a lot of consumers that are potential consumers of Mighty Meals are interested in diversity or some kind of, interesting flavor, interesting things. One of the things that it kind of brings up in my mind is the origin of Trader Joe's being interesting food products for people who have the income for it, but don't necessarily have the dollars to go out to like a fancy Japanese omakase, restaurant. But like they want to try some of these new flavors. And I think what you're doing is interesting too, because it hits all of the, basic nutrition that you need from, two athletes, right? And you're coming at it from that perspective. But I think kind of the culinary development that you bring to the table that's different maybe from some of your competitors. So, can you talk a little bit about, now especially when you've scaled to the scale that you've had, what does R&D look like for you as you're coming out with new flavors? And obviously you have your tried and true staples like the Peruvian chicken that got you your first big client, but talk to me about like what that process kind of looks like now, especially when you're at
Yeah,
the scale that you're at.
yeah. So great question. It's interesting. It's the one thing I miss most about the business is that because I'm not involved on that anymore from a micro level like I was. I still am involved in all, we have 2 meetings a week, which are so fun because we're always just eating, new products and stuff. But, essentially our culinary team is about 70 people with 10 managers over that. And we just onboarded a culinary development and assurance chef. And now my big thing, with AI becoming so awesome and advancing and, on a daily basis, that's, our biggest thing in our industry that can, push a customer away is menu fatigue. That's why we have about 170 SKUs that are live with all different types of ethnicities. When you create a profile on Mighty Meals, we collect about 40 data points. So we're really involved in tracking data. So we have about 8 years of data that now we're building a tool of what products do we remove and what products should we add that we haven't even created yet that we should develop based on new diets coming out. GLP-1 is a hot fad that, needs, support diet around it for it to really have optimal results. So really, honestly, like I'm really big on just scraping the data that we turned 10 this year. Like we're about to launch our 10-year. So we have so much data over the years. And it's like, it used to literally, honestly, when we started, it's like, what do we feel like eating? Now it's literally like, it's down to the science of, these two tools we've built out where it takes all our customer data and then, scrapes a ton of data from databases online and starts to spit out, this is what you should develop in the coming months based on this seasonality. you know, uh, these super greens are trending. People are staying away from this because, food is ever so evolving, right? And there's different diets, even within, you have, traditional diets, but then even within these traditional diets, there's, new elevated in that diet field, right? So like if you go on our menu, we got, like I said, 170 SKUs. Our filtering process is pretty intense. The things you can pick, slider on the macro. We're coming out with this tool too to really help literally automate the customer experience of like, hey, I'm a 31-year-old male. I want to gain 10 pounds of muscle. This is my budget. And that's like really just trying to bring, health tech into our menu
Yeah.
development and then in product development.
No, that's I think it feels like out of some science fiction movie. It's like this is exactly what I need. But then you're providing it in like a tangible, product too. And I think the fact that you can hold 170 plus SKUs and still develop more and think critically about like what you're doing, I think is from a consumer standpoint, probably the most effective type of marketing is having, like I said, good quality products, but new products coming in on, whatever cadence that they are. Um, and I think that's critical, especially when menu fatigue, you said, is as important as anything else. Making sure you're providing your customers with new and interesting things.
Yeah, and to add to, like, right now it's like body hacking is like really big, right? So the next thing I think about too, right, is diets around biomarkers, right? You pull a blood panel, it's like, okay, if I have your blood panel, and again, we have this is just really early stages, but if I have your, you know, if I had your biomarkers and panel, and I have all this data, I can literally create a diet for you. It's called, we like, as a country, like, my thoughts are we're very reactive to our health instead of
Interesting.
proactive.
Yeah.
So if we were proactive, I mean, 70% of disease is lifestyle choices, right? So like, you can go to the gym and work out and do that. That's great. But like, our body is a huge filter. And if you're not putting the right things in it based on your biomarkers, you're not really living an optimal lifestyle, right? So I think there's a lot there, especially with the tech evolving. Like, we have the infrastructure on the food side. Now I'm really thinking of the business, like moving into, that space. And that's where I really see that, the next decade of where I want to spend my personal time in the up organization.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that because I think that's, a good transition as any because, going from serving 1,000 meals a week to scaling across 27 states with multiple business partnerships that you're providing food for and continually incorporating different technology into like the operations of what you're doing, both from a culinary standpoint as well as from a logistics standpoint. But I think one of the things, Stefano, that probably I'm assuming a lot of your time is just based on the content that I see online is on marketing and digital marketing. And I think that's something that, especially being a consumer product at the end of the day, you have to be at the forefront of what people see. Otherwise, it becomes more of a commodity than anything else. And it's not representative of what you're providing. So can you talk to me a little bit about how digital marketing and the technology that you've used has enabled your business to grow and scale at the pace that it has over the last, about to be 10 years?
Yeah, of course. I think, one, we have an amazing marketing team and agency we use. They're just really good at what they do, really smart, very data centric, data driven. Um, and honestly, in the early days, that's what taught me to be data centric and data driven in a space that, like, the food space, we're not, it's starting to be, right, but it really wasn't thought back then like that. So that got me, that's kind of what influenced me to start thinking that way in my own business. In 2020, the world changed overnight. I have a lot of friends that are chefs, restaurateurs, my sister and my dad, chef and restaurateurs, and it just all went to shit overnight. And it's like, okay, our business model was, we had pickup locations in gyms and we did home delivery, but 86% of our revenue was pretty much delivering the fridges in gyms. 14 was, home. Overnight, everything shut down. So it's like, whoa, what do we do? Right. On the operational side, we did what we needed to do. But really, it's like thinking, this sucks. Like, I'm talking to my colleagues, and not colleagues, but like, people, around, my friends, chefs, just seeing like the struggle. So we came out with this idea. Uh, we call it the Mighty Movement. It's like, how can we help out? We donated probably like over 60,000 meals that year to, first responders. We would pick a hospital every weekend and we would just go there with meals, right? And then, companies started seeing that and they wanted to start backing it, right? So we did a partnership with Khaki. I believe they donated like $50,000. And obviously we like discounted the meals heavily so we can get more meals to the hospital. And it was huge. It was just like the snowball effect. And honestly, it was so cool to like feel like where I grew up in the DMV my whole life. It was cool just to be able to, like, at least for me, feel like I was a part of something and helping, right? Alongside that, like, we had another facet, like, how do we help the restaurants out, right? People are still ordering food because they were scared to go to grocery stores. And the people that went to grocery stores, like my mom, would like put Windex on apples.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, what do you? I was like,
Like way
no
worse
one
for you
really
than
knew
just
what.
going to the grocery store.
Yeah, no one really knew what the hell to do during COVID, right? As far as like, how do we handle it? How do we
Right.
mitigate this?
Right.
But so we made a whole landing page and we partnered up, with all my restaurant friends. And pretty much every time you bought a gift card to the restaurant, we would give you like 5x reward points for Mighty Meals, right? To incentivize, help you do the restaurant. And then we do videos and kind of just storytelling, like just help out where we need to, right? Um, so I mean, that really got me thinking of like, okay, we have a food company now, that's great, but now like philanthropy is like I really like we don't talk about it much because I get kind of it's kind of weird like talking about like, hey, we're doing this and donating this, it could come off as fake, right? But like since that mighty movement, I mean, we've donated probably over a quarter million meals.
It's
And
amazing.
now the big one, like the really, really big one that's like near and dear to me is our partnership with Children's National Hospital to help fight food insecurity, in adults and children. Reason being is the first 18 years of my life, I went to Children's Hospital. I was legally born blind, had 6 surgeries on my eyes. So thanks to them, I can see and actually cook and, be able to do what I do. So we donate meals weekly to them. And we're really looking to build that relationship on a bigger scale. And it's crazy how full circle everything is, right? And it's just cool because, like, again, for me personally, like, if it wasn't for them, who knows if I'd be able to see, right? So I feel like I'm paying it back the way I can, right?
Yeah.
Any way I can possible. So really, really excited. And it just so happens to be on our 10-year, like the first 10 years of the business was all about growth. The next 10 years is all about purpose and innovation in my eyes, which will naturally just bring growth within itself, right? But
Yeah.
really, like, I'm really, right now, the first 10 years, we were a growth company. I'm looking to turn Mighty Meals from a growth company to an actual brand. And brands last and they stick, right? So, right now we're in 27 states. We're probably going to be national by sometime in 26. We're just doing it in phases. We're not venture backed. We're not PE backed. We're scrappy. We've
Just
always
two
been scrappy.
grinders who built
Yeah.
something over the last
Scra-
10 years. That's amazing. Awesome.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Stefano, I think your story is inspiring. And I think the purpose stuff, especially your partnership with National Children's and, the other philanthropic avenues that you all have worked through is really amazing. And it's awesome to see that, it could go from two guys overnight in a kitchen to what it is now.
Yeah. We got a team now of about 135.
Wow.
And that's the coolest thing too, honestly. Like I love going to the office and just I think, like like there's the office clown. Like I'm that guy because I just love walking around and just talking to everyone, saying what's up. It's just cool.
Yeah.
It's just fun. It's like, it took 10 years to build it up to where it is. And obviously there's a shit ton of hardship on the way. And it's even today, it's a roller coaster ride. But, as you get some tenure, your emotions get used to, the punches and you just keep going. Um, but it's just awesome. Like I just building the company culture to what it is today. Like I love my team. We're throwing a huge 10-year anniversary party for the team this year. And I'm excited to celebrate with everybody.
That's awesome. I'm sure you'll have good food there at the 10-year party, I would hope.
But yeah. And and
Awesome.
and good liquor.
Yeah, yeah, that too. Awesome. Well, Stefano, thank you so much for your time. Very much appreciated. And here's to, way more than 10 more years of Mighty Meals.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you, Zach, and I love what you're doing. It's awesome.